Hey everyone, Lisa here. We're going to be making some videos today. We're going to be talking about how to make your own generative videos and how to work those into your projects, including things like music videos today. So hi, I'm Evo. I am also half of the band Oracles, and we're going to be exploring some of the art we've been using for Oracles today as part of this live cast. So I'm excited that you're joining us today. I am coming to you from the music studio. So I am backstage at our recording lab right now where we are working on new music. And I wanted to go ahead and try and share with you a little bit of what we're working on today. So I'm going to go ahead and turn down that music from our track Transformer. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we do generative video making, specifically how we use tools such as Kaiber, Runway, Fulljourney, Topaz, and a whole suite of video tools that we currently are using for filmmaking, for video making, for music videos, and for all types of production together. So I'm glad you're here with me. I'm going to go ahead and jump into showing you a little bit of what we've been doing. And let's see if I can start this one off here. And this is a recent visualizer that was done for a process pretty recently. And I see that we have some folks who are going to jump into the broadcast with us. So if you're here and backstage, I'm going to bring you on shortly. You're welcome to screen share and show a little bit of what you're working on too. So let me play this for you. What I'm going to show you is a sample of a short piece. It's basically a visualizer for a song that's a work in progress right now. But I wanted to give you kind of a starting point of how we're using Kaiber. So this is all built in one take. And I'm going to show you how to storyboard projects like this, whether you have your own music that you're trying to use or otherwise. So I hope that sound is okay for you. I'm going to try and talk over this track in this point, but I want you to see some things that I'm doing here, and then I'm going to show you how I'm doing them. So let's see if we are able to get this well into the broadcast. And you're going to be able to send in your questions if you're watching live. So if you can't hear the audio, we're going to go ahead and stop that real quick because it's the audio that is not coming through properly. Thank you for letting me know. We'll go ahead and reshare that shortly. So when you're thinking about how these kinds of videos might work into your own projects and broadcasts, I want you to be thinking about the kinds of storytelling that you're trying to do and how your storytelling then can be refined into a prompt development process, whether you're using like a prompt text to video tool. There are a handful of them that we're going to explore, especially Runway and Kaiber today. Also, I'm going to go ahead and bring in, I see Steven's in the back room. So hi, Steven, are you able to come on and say hi to us? I don't hear you.
I'm able to come on and say hello.
Hi. I know you and I have collaborated sort of next to each other, although not directly on the same projects. It's great to see you, Steve. How are you currently using generative tools in your own production process?
So right now, I created a workflow for myself with Python notebooks where I generate scripts. And then I read through the scripts, like have the program read through the scripts and then start generating the individual shots and the individual characters, which then can concatenate all of those together and create a little story.
So is that using something like Deforum or what are you using?
No, I'm using ChatGPT in order to generate the script. I'm about to upgrade it to use AI agents to be able to talk to each other rather than generate a script beforehand. And then so it's Midjourney gets me sort of an initial image. I
Right.
can bring in sort of partly prepared shots, which then can use um stable diffusion in order to generate the videos, and then do another pass through Kaiber in order to generate the images, and then I use fake you to generate the voices for the characters.
Got it. So you and I are doing somewhat similar workflows with a few minor changes. So Midjourney is a place to start. And then I'm currently using Runway, Kaiber, Fulljourney, for example. It sounds like you're doing something similar there. And then you said for your voices, you're using what tool is it?
I'm using. I've been experimenting. Fake You, FAKEYOU. They sort of specialize in creating sort of famous voices, sort of recreating famous voices. But I'm really trying to find other ones. There's a Revoicer. There's a whole bunch of them. But the big thing for me is it has to be 100% automated. So I want to type in a prompt and then everything gets generated.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So what have you tried that has given you the best results so far? Is that through what you would say the fake you has given you, or
Well, the one that Fake You gives me decent voices. So like I was just using celebrity voices, but that's not really. I was using it more for testing, but it's so that's given me really good voices. Bugs Bunny and like all these things that I don't really want to use in anything that I'm going to publish. Um, the Stable Diffusion has given me some of the best. Stable Diffusion with ControlNet has given me best sort of initial changes because it allows it for the mouth to be tracked uh, when you're
right?
generating videos.
Got it. So have you tried like a DID as well for that?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so this is something that we use quite a bit, and I'm hoping. Are you seeing this on your screen now?
I
Let's
am.
confirm you are. Okay, so DID is also baked into Canva. So it's an app. If you're a Canva user, you can build it into your existing workflows with videos. But basically, it is using similar voices to what you would find with the 11 Labs models, but it's also giving you the ability to upload any avatar image, human or sort of a creature or otherwise, and then to make those mouth movements very easy to do. So I think you get a few free generations when you try it out. And you can pick from their existing humans, or in some cases, you can upload your own sort of fantasy beings. But this is what some folks are using in their YouTube videos right now to make, for example, paintings talk and things like this. So it's really fun. I've used it in music videos once or twice. We haven't released any of those yet, but I did like the effects. And the same thing you can see in the Barbieheimer trailer video, if you've seen that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you using these tools for right now? What are you finding is most useful for them?
Um, for I have a whole thing which is we're talking about making videos. So I've been using I've been creating 360. I've been taking my previously generated videos that I created in 360 video, and then running it through Kaiber to sort of abstract it a bit, and then it allows you to sort of immerse yourself into the experience. Um, uh, the goal here was Leia, the Leia pad. They
Mhm.
have a call out in order to create content for them so that you can sell videos on there. So I am looking to be able to create videos that can be sort of put up for sale for $1 or two, here and
Got
there.
it. And what kinds of videos, like lengthwise? And I mean, it sounds like 3D, things that have a 3D component to them.
Um, Not in this one. In this one, oh yeah. The Leia
With the Leia?
has the Leia has the 3D aspects of it. Um, uh, so I've been doing simple stories. What is it? Red Riding Hood, fairy tales, anything that's sort of public domain that you can sort of work through and then see how it comes out because you know the story so well.
Right.
And then uh, what I haven't been able to figure out is music generation, which I think is a little closer to your world.
Sure. Well, we can talk a little bit about sort of every aspect of the sort of media process. What's behind us right now on the screen is Kaiber, and this is currently one of my favorite tools for making these short video clips. And you can do a lot with Kaiber, but you can't make the music. What you can do is upload your music and then create a prompt to go with it, and I'm going to take you through this step by step because this is how I'm doing some of the visualizers. Is you can make a storyboard in Kaiber, have each prompt be sort of an evolution of an idea, and then you put your 4-minute song on it, and it will do the whole thing for you. What it doesn't do is the actual writing of the music. You have to have your music already composed.
Right.
Where I have seen some really interesting things coming in the music space is from Fulljourney. Have you played with Fulljourney at all?
No, I heard you mention it today and yesterday, but I haven't checked it out yet.
Yeah, so a mix of generated video as well there. So this is a Fulljourney video based on an image of mine that came from Midjourney. Here's another Fulljourney, but again, that one doesn't look like it's really moving, but some of them definitely have some weird movement to them, sort of like early Runway videos. This one, it can't quite figure out how to manage cats, things like that. So this is Fulljourney, and you can see it's very early, so it looks a little weird and abstract. But here's Runway by comparison. Also kind of weird and abstract, right? Like they both have that weird sort of quality to them. I would say Fulljourney is even more basic, but it's improving quickly. It's a very interesting multimodal maker tool. And Fulljourney.ai, I want to say, is the link there. So if you're trying to think about other tools you might want to try, there's a handful of other music generators out there. Sometimes when I'm composing, with our band, by the way, with Oracles, we are writing our own music. I'm actually in the studio where we've been doing that. So when you hear pieces that I do with these music tracks, those are all human made music in the sense that we wrote and performed the music. What we don't do is our voices. We train ciphers in 11 labs for the voice itself, right? So when you have these videos pop up and you'll hear sometimes what sounds like a beat poet, that's often our colleague Marcus or Bellringer. And so I've done some videos where we have made Bellringer into a cipher, but those were trained on Marcus's voice and on my voice and then on someone else's voice as well. So with the music, we are basically rewriting the lyrics and then making them work with the songs, but then we might do 100 versions of the music. And honestly, on some of these songs, we're up to 200 versions. And then we're just like going through line by line. And we might even have 50 different versions of the exact same line to figure out which arrangement we're going to use. So I would say it's a lot more sort of a fusing process, but it's less of a let's try it again, but this time on the beat, right? We're doing a lot of that in Ableton with 11 labs.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's the sort of baseline of the process. I wanted to show you a little bit of how these prompts come together too, because obviously this video that we're seeing right now is a short that I made in Kaiber for a TikTok, right? For something that's a reel. And this song in particular, I wanted to do, I've been doing this series of women who transform, who are sort of women who are timeless throughout history. But here's one that I just did as we were talking, so you can see roughly the amount of time it took. This is what we call in Kaiber a motion video instead of a flip through. So Runway 2, Runway Gen 2 it's called, is making this kind of video, what we call a motion video. Those are usually 4 seconds long currently. And in Runway Gen 2, you can extend them up to 8 seconds. With Kaiber, however, there are 2 different types of video you can make. It's flipbook or motion. These motion ones are the ones that look like what we just saw. But flipbook, these can be very long pieces. These can be 3, 4, 5 minutes long. And you can start not just with an initial image. So maybe I want to start with one of these sort of rock band symbols I've been thinking about here. And then I want to try one of our songs and see what it does. And this is where I'll often like explore what happens. So I'm going to put in a song and I can even storyboard to the song itself. And this is something I want to show y'all really quickly. Stephen, stay on as long as you can, and then we'll talk about this. But I want you to be able to see the process for storyboarding in Kaiber. So Kaiber has a couple of very cool tools. One of them right here is this magic wand, where if I click this, it's going to try and give me a prompt based on this image that I gave it. And it doesn't quite know how to describe it, but that's what it said. And I'm going to add a few words like up, art, illusion, bold. And I might also illusion. Let's try and spell illusion. And then you can decide the style. In this case, I want it to be very bold. I want it to be big and 3D and graphic, opening infinite. And I want this sort of zooming infinite style. And I can do a number of different things with this. So here's the song playback, and I can pick where in the song I want different breaks to happen. So as I go through, I write my prompt. Oh goodness, I'm sorry. I'm having a little bit of a mouse map. And then here my whole song is 3:38. But if I decide to basically storyboard it, I can break it up into sections. So I can say maybe I'm going to zoom in for this first section and only do a mild evolution of the image. And I don't want it to be audio reactive first, but maybe I want it to be audio reactive, like moving with the beat later on. So I go to generate previews. It gives me either 2 or 4 different versions to look at, depending on if I'm in motion view or if I'm doing a flip through view. Flip through is basically putting together 12 frames per second. And I'm going to tell it the amount of time I want, but it's going to put together 12 frames per second. So I maybe pick which type of transformation I want it to head toward. Let's go there. And then I can click create video, which will just go and make the whole video, but that's going to be 3.5 minutes long of just doing that, just zooming. Or I click storyboard right here. And storyboard then lets me go back in and start to divvy up different sections. So maybe I want it to now go to vibrant color on black and white abstract. So maybe I want it to now be like a rainbow telescoping. And I can think about different ways to play with this. But over time, so here's where the timestamp is. And maybe I want it after the first verse to jump in and start to be colorful, or to turn, or to move upward, to make the camera start to move upward, to become audio reactive. And then every time you do this, it's going to generate a new preview. And then you do it again and again and again. And in this case, I can do it to all of where the choruses are, or these specific beats where I know I want the camera view to change, or I want the scene to change. I want it to maybe pop into color. I wanted to do something weird. These are the sorts of evolutions I can basically program into it. So here I can put storyboard again. And now I'm just going to hit vibrant color and take out a lot of the other stuff and just say vibrant color rainbows. And now what it's going to do is it's going to have to figure out how to like really start to evolve in a way that I didn't necessarily plan for it to before. And I'm going to make it timestamp over here, go high, generate previews. And then basically once you've done that, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, then you go ahead and generate the whole scene. It takes a few minutes with Kaiber, but it gives you a percentage of how far it's along. So you do get some sense of progression, but you can see now the color is popped and it's going to start to do something weird to the image. So I'm going to let it go from there and just hit create video and see what it does. And then I'm going to take you through some of my other videos so you can see the kinds of things that I've been doing and what those prompts came from. So some of these I start with a song lyric. Some of these I start with an art idea, or I'm working on something in terms of storytelling, whether it's in a music video process or in the band. Many of these I'm trying to figure out how to create a feeling that might work on stage as well as in something like music videos. So I'm curious, and Stephen, I see that you've got some screen sharing for us, so maybe you have something you want to share too. Have you played much with Kaiber yet, Stephen?
Yeah, Kaiber is one of my favorites to play with. I use the flipbook mostly. So the only video that I actually have to share is one where I processed it through Kaiber, and then I created a 360 video. And one of the nice things about Kaiber is that it helped respect the boundaries, both on the top and the bottom and the left and the right of the video. And with your permission, I have a 46-second video, but we can cut it down just slightly shorter than that.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and add it to our stream right now.
Every day as I pray, my soul's in so much pain, but I'm not gonna give up. I'll pick myself up. I'll do it for you and I'll do it for us. There's so many people suffering too, so I'm gonna give them my all. What if we only could give more? What if we could be better than before? Help each other, care for one another. The world will feel like home.
Wow, that's beautiful. I love how that came together. I haven't tried any of my 360 videos yet, so thanks for the inspiration. So that was Kaiber. Did you just keep it low on the evolve so it wouldn't mess with your video too much?
Yeah, I tried to keep it relatively low so that it stayed consistent. That way it didn't. That way the user doesn't feel a little too distracted, because if it's all changing, it gets a little too much. And then I have motion in the 360 video, which is also something that a lot of people have difficulty with in the headset, especially if they haven't used it very much. But where I'm going with it is that I'm trying to get it where I'm using game engine, sort of combining game engine and AI generated things. So you feed information from your scripts and your prompts into avatars, make them move around, which creates the videos and the motion, which then you can then place things on top of that, so you can process it further by adding in Kaiber or even in stable diffusion with ControlNet, and then you can add in the facial reconstructions, which allows you to sort of have the things people can actually recognize and identify the people that are in there, because one of my rules comes from ILM, that they sent out a letter a long time ago, and it just said focus in on realism, and so I'm trying to
Wait,
stay
focus in on what?
realism, things
Realism.
that look real in some way, so if you can connect to it, try to stay there. But the game engine. So I've been trying to figure out how to hook in either Ethereal engine, or one of the things that I've been thinking about recently is using Engage, the platform,
Yeah.
just to go in as the avatar and then create the films with that, and then use that as the basis for what goes into things like Kaiber, and then which allows you to change the environment completely, but it allows you to have the motion, the control, remote collaboration with people.
Yeah. That makes sense. So you're talking about basically shooting machinima and
Yeah,
then
exactly.
restyling the machinima itself.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's one of the things, but it's a little bit more than that, because the process is, there's a fully 100% automated version of the video that comes in, and then you can sort of reshoot little shots, and then so you can resequence the videos. So you can have created a whole story. It has a process, and you go, oh, I don't like that shot, and now you can go in and you can edit the shot, because you have uh, like, if you have a head that's sort of off the wrong way, you can go in and modify the avatar and change the head, change the movement, and then reprocess it, and now you're cleaning that up. And if you don't like what it comes out at all, you can go in and refilm it with an actual camera, or a virtual camera in this case, and then sort of move the camera around and then create a longer story.
I love what you're doing in terms of camera control and thinking about the virtual space as basically a virtual production set. Because I've seen a few folks thinking about that, but not many. I mean, I used to shoot machinima back in the day in virtual worlds, and it is a lightweight animation platform if you know how to build that workflow that works for you.
Right.
I like what you're doing, especially in terms of building in that sense of relatability while still keeping it a little bit maybe like it's almost like a watercolor of real life. That video you showed us had this sort of abstract painting quality to it, even though it still felt very real. And this is the difference with restyled video versus a fully generated video. And I don't know if you've seen this too, but I'm going to share a video. So when we're talking about a generated video from scratch, we might be talking about something like this, where I maybe gave it an image only, right? So this started with an image, but it didn't start with video. Now, what I'm going to show you next started with video. And I've done a few of these now where I've basically got the flames licking up the drums as he's playing them, right? So he's evolving a little bit, but the drum set being on fire was really the goal there for that one. And we're, again, making those work for music videos. I find the video to video, right? That restyling of an existing video to a generated effects video. People tend to respond really well to those videos. There's an emotional response that people immediately have less of a resistance to than some of the straight up generated videos. Have you seen that as well in your testing?
Yeah, I can even tell it in my own response to watching the videos, whether or not I feel connected to the story, whether or not it is there a human element to it, is there a face that we can latch on to, is there some sort of narrative that's going on, and you kind of see that when you're watching the videos. Uh,
Mhm.
are you, is that emotional connection there?
It can even work with like an inanimate object. So here's a statue, and I've done a couple of versions of these statues where they're like flying off or, taking off from, it's basically war angels that are sort of leaving battle behind.
Right.
And it's interesting to take things like statues and make them come to life in these sort of simple ways. What I noticed is partially that relatability is related to seeing things that they recognize, and partially the relatability is connected to, for example, frame rate problems. So most of these tools are giving you 8 to 12 frames per second on average. I have found that I have to go to Topaz and bring them up to 30 FPS and frames per second, for those of you who aren't video makers, frames per second. 30 frames per second, and then getting out up to an HD quality so that it doesn't have that, sort of grainier, pixelated look. What are
Right.
the other tips you're finding that make a video more successful from?
Well, going back to the video that you were talking about with the statue, bringing it to life. One of the things that I noticed even in just the brief clip was the change of lighting. So where the lighting is, we learn in photography and painting and video, the high light, the low light, and whether or not it kind of feels like that sort of sinister campfire story. But lighting is always there. So like it's one of the reasons why I keep on pushing for sort of the virtual environment, like the AI generates a virtual environment, which then you get the control, which then allows you to control the lighting more precisely.
So are you exploring that in things like Unreal Engine as well, or have you played around
Yeah,
with using game engines for that? I know the virtual production community obviously is using that extensively, but
yeah. I mean, Unreal Engine. I don't like. Uh, I don't use Unreal Engine. I went through tons of training for it. I don't use um Unity either. Uh, what I end up doing is I tend towards the anything that I can control programmatically, rather than uh, so that it will run in the background. And Unity and Unreal, they're great if you want to get hands on and go into the world and control it. But if you want to sort of write a program, have it execute on a piece of cloud architecture, and come back, they don't really lend themselves to that unless you want to pay significantly. So I end up using WebXR, Babylon JS,
Mhm.
because you have the control, you can just import an avatar, any kind of avatar you want. You can just say where the lighting is, and then you can say, oh, this is the kind of mood, and then you can pull in a motion capture mood and then apply it. But it gets fed in from the sentiment uh, of the uh, of the word or the sentiment of the scene.
so we're talking about a number of different potential experimental workflows. And for those of you who are just joining us, I'm Evo. I am usually at Reality Craft, but today I'm in the studio. Stephen Van Loon is joining us today. And Steve, how do people find you if they want to explore your work and maybe a little bit of what you're up to?
Um, I guess the major way is I'm on Facebook. I'm Stephen Van Loon, or I'm S Van Loon Beelb in Facebook, which is a little weird. It's because I've decided that on my Facebook, I'm going to eventually replace my human element in interacting with Facebook and replace myself with an AI agent. So I've been working through figuring out how I'm gonna plug that in. And Beelb, Beelb, is Dutch, and it roughly translates to icon or avatar. So the S Van Loon avatar, but you can't use the word avatar on Facebook.
No,
So
you cannot. I was one of those people who started out as my Second Life avatar on Facebook. I refused to use my real name until they made me.
yeah,
And it's so funny to me to see people go the other way, because I had to, you know, re-embrace my humanness at some point by force. So I see more and more people going the other direction. And I see that we have folks who are also joining us in the backspace, including Lorraine. And Lorraine, if you want to join us on screen live, you're welcome. Just let me know. We have the chat back as well. And if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube and you want to send us questions, you're welcome, because we can take a few minutes with those questions as well. I wanted to show you just quickly some of the types of prompts that I'm using and what they yield. I think, Stephen, your notes around lighting choices in particular are some of the harder things to get to with some of these tools, because most tools like Runway, or as I was mentioning with the avatar singing DID, even Fulljourney, they're not really able to do lighting effects very well. Kaiber is closer in terms of being able to simulate a lighting effect in different ways. And I don't know how much you've played with different lighting effects, but we can definitely talk a little bit more about maybe the keywords you like to use personally in order to get to maybe the quality of light or the quality of color that you're looking for.
yeah. For me, I have to pull it out of the AI and generate it and push it back into AI in order to be able to get the lighting that I'm most interested in. Because I found that there are a lot of limitations to what can be generated, or at least what I think can be generated. So I've been working on a problem of using Midjourney to create like a person, and then try to rotate them around to see what the virtual clothing looks like. And this is one that's been plaguing me for a little bit, but it's one of those things that uh, uh, it takes a lot of technique to be able to sort of say, here's my image, here's another controlled image, and then rotate, and then hoping that the AI can continue the imagery.
Right. So that's where some folks try to use like a control net with Laura, but it is quite hard to get to that level of control with multiple characters in movement, for example. It sounds like you've been exploring quite a bit of that. I have not been trying too much in terms of control net. And use of Laura's, I would say we use more in storytelling than anywhere else, but also in art making too. I don't know how much you're exploring that in your own work, but I see that we definitely have some folks who are watching backstage. So it's really great to see all of you. And thanks for your comments and notes. If there is a particular topic that you've been wanting to explore or that you want more information on, we can definitely go through. And it looks like Kaiber is like, no, I don't remember you anymore, even though I was just here a moment ago. I have made, I want to say, about 200 videos in Kaiber. 217 is the current total. For those of you who are trying to figure out if you could do this yourself, you could absolutely do this yourself. These aren't that hard to do. You buy credits. I think I bought a year's worth of credits for about $100, $150, something like that. And for that, I got through somewhere in the 200 to 300 videos range. If you're trying to think about budgets and what that looks like, a lot of these tools are still evolving, and you can get a few free before you have to then go ahead and pay for credits. But you will notice, like, for example, with we were talking about Fulljourney. Fulljourney just came out, but just as of last week, you can now buy credits, because with Fulljourney, I'll put that up right here for you, those of you who are curious to try it. And you can see it's still very startup-y. They don't have a really, strong logo or website yet. But to subscribe and buy credits, it's really not too pricey. You're basically, again, enabling this in Discord the same way you would with Midjourney. So Luma and the layout pad is a really fun way to explore if you're trying to do things in the short term that are thinking about flipping in more of a 3D way. I've done this with a couple of my short videos in StreamYard as well. Have you used their little sort of depth creator, like these kinds of taking an image and just making them play and rotate a little bit?
Yeah, I got to use it a little bit. They have a nice app which actually uses stable diffusion underneath, and then you can type in the prompt, and then it'll generate it, and then it'll allow you to move it within a little bit of a range, little RGBD kind of work in there. Is there anything else? I've been finding is it Kaiber or is it Runway? One of them allows you to take a flat video and then extract the depth information out of it. So I've been running through that sort of programmatically, and then that allows you to do things like Looking Glass also.
Yeah, so we should probably talk a little bit about these Runway tools, because there are a lot of tools, not just Gen 1 and Gen 2 in terms of video making, but what you described, I think, is a Runway tool as well, in terms of depth. I have not used all of these tools. I have tried their color grading. I have done a little bit in terms of using these, not just for upscaling, but a little bit of motion tracking. I have, I think, used their remove background, but lots of tools have these kinds of things now. Do you have any of these particular tools in Runway that you've liked? Super slow motion.
Let me bring up Runway. I was trying to bring it up. The one that I use most often is definitely the depth to pull
Here,
in
bring it up.
information. Got it here. It's coming up in a second.
Yeah. So when we're talking about Runway, and I apologize, I meant to show this to you before. When you're talking about Runway, there are a lot of what they call magic tools inside Runway. We were talking a little bit about Gen 2, which will take an image or text and then make a video from it. You can also do what they call Gen 1, which is taking a video and restyling it. And this is something I sometimes do for classes. But it's also very good for example, a nonprofit where you need to anonymize your people. It lets you turn video people into like Legos or different types of styles. So I can take a video that I've already used and then basically restyle it in a way that might make it look like something completely different, but also takes a little bit of the humanness out. And that can be very useful. But again, it's useful if you're trying to like tell a story in a claymation style, or you need to maybe anonymize videos so that the original humans aren't visible. Like, for example, if you're a teacher and you don't want to reveal who your students are as physical human beings, right? So there's some detail inside Runway on Gen 2 workflows, also on how to train your own custom AI models. And I saw that there was a question about portraiture and video. And this is actually one of the tougher things to nail. You're going to notice that almost none of these are videos about human beings. I have not seen a lot of great tools for actually capturing humans, because Kaiber, as you see, will generally make a human evolve quite a bit. So you might lose some of their original sort of characteristics. Frequently, this is what happens when you're using a human inside one of these, unless you're keeping the evolution, the change very low, right? So almost all of these that feature humans in Kaiber just don't stay consistent. Have you seen any tools that are good at consistent video characters?
Well, a lot of it is how much original content that are original video or images that you can provide. So Runway actually does have a way of training a particular portrait. So you could take. I'm not sure if you can provide videos. I would hope that you can actually do it, but you can provide lots of images of individual people, which will then allow you to prompt and create those people. Um, the other one that I've been using is it's called Civit AI. I've never actually pronounced the word, and that one has a whole series of models that you can pull down, and then you can run in on your local. So I'll test out a model using a program called Draw Things, and Draw Things. It's very simple. It's a very simple tool. You pick the model, and then it'll download the model, and then you can do either an image to image or a text to image, and then it allows you to do the control net. Pick your control net, so you can pick your poses. That'll track your poses, or it'll track face. Um, but the Civic AI has a whole bunch of models, and it has a whole ways of training it. Most of the ways that I've seen about training the models usually involve Jupyter notebooks, or are much more complicated than going on a website where you can just upload the videos or upload the image.
That makes sense, and that tracks with most of my experiments too. I have found that if you're trying to do a video of a single character speaking, I've got a dog here with me. Speaking of dogs and speaking, we might hear this one coming. This is DID again, and I'm just going to show you very quickly. So this is a single character, but basically by using this tool, I can add an existing presenter. So I can make this be me, just add my headshot, and then I can give myself a script, and there are both free and premium voices in here. So let's say I'm Jenny, and I want to be cheerful. And then from there, we should be able to then generate a video. So this is the one way I know to get to a consistent character in a video that will be able to speak and do similar mouth movements. So let's see what it got to with that. Ooh, I don't like that at all, but that's what happens.
Right.
That doesn't look like me, but it's interesting that that's what it did. Right. It's within DID, you can do some things very well, and other things don't track as well as like something like animes, where you can be a VTuber and just track to your face unlimited. So for those of you who have not used sort of VTuber tools before, there's ManyCam, there's animes. Animes, you can just upload your avatar and then shoot videos or stream the same way we're doing right now with it. So these kinds of characters, you can see that they have a library, and you can kind of use their characters. And these are, useful for customer service videos. I find that they're less useful for storytelling unless you're doing something like that Barbieheimer short trailer where you can make Barbie talk and do different things that she wouldn't otherwise do. Right. I'm using DID very specifically because it doesn't evolve the character, whereas all of these are you're not getting any sort of consistency with any of these characters. Someone was asking about de-aging of characters, and within most of these generators, if you want it to stay very close to the image that you're using, you're going to want to use image weights. And you're basically going to want to potentially include words for age. And you can say age 50 or something like that if you need someone to be of a specific age. The same way, if you're trying to get someone of a specific ethnicity, you might need to specify either the ethnicity or to prompt a word in their initial language to be able to elicit that ethnicity as well. So portraiture is one of the harder things currently in terms of video making from a satisfying point of view. We've definitely done some interesting things on the white mirror on the film side with using a mix of sort of traditional VFX tools with generative tools, almost to create that sort of fire effect, like what you saw with the drummer here, where the drummer is kind of getting into flames and doing a little thing. So these are methods that you can explore mixing between. But if you're trying to get to consistency, you're going to then need to go out to something like After Effects and really polish it to a place where you're feeling good about it, because none of the generative tools currently out there, other than something like a DID, are at all consistent.
One thing, based on the technique that you showed, where you're uploading an individual image, and then you can sort of generate for DID, you could generate the video from the single image. If you were trying to de-age, you could potentially either use an older photo of yourself, which would be good, but if you don't have that, there are apps on the phone which actually specialize in de-aging, so you can sort of use those as another tool to just sort of manipulate the image, to not get your 12-year-old self or a crone, and then get something that actually looks right, and then it's usually a face app that you're using, and then export that out and then reuse that in something like DID, and that way you would get you would know kind of what the effect would look like beforehand.
That's a very interesting
approach.
approach.
They didn't want it to de-age. I'm sorry. I read that in reverse.
Yeah, I think, and I think a lot of us struggle with dysphoria from time to time as well, when we get approached with a generation that doesn't necessarily match our imagination, whether it's portraiture, like doing ourselves or other people, or it's something where it doesn't match, right? It creates this sort of dissonance for us when those ideas don't fit. And I think those of us who've spent a lot of time in Midjourney and have played with portraiture have experienced that in one way or another. Like, I'm a size 12, not a size 2, but often if I just give it a headshot, it will try to give me a size 2 body instead of a size 12 body. These are the kinds of biases that are baked into certain generators, and it's just so awkward when it comes up. So I wanted to show you that sometimes you're going to get these kinds of weird errors, like this one where it just didn't show me the previews. These are the kinds of things where you might need to just start over, or you might need to reload. Kaiber does this. Sometimes Runway does this as well. So if you're exploring for the first time and you haven't experimented too much with these tools, I would say both Kaiber and Runway are great places to start for a relatively low amount of money. Fulljourney is available now on Discord. You can do images, you can do audio, you can do video. And each of those are just as simple as writing a prompt the same way we do in Midjourney. Stephen, are there specific tips you would have in terms of your prompt craft and the kinds of things that you find successful? You mentioned your description of the lighting being a fundamental piece that gives you better results. Are there other tips you have?
Right. One thing that I come across is, especially for people of color, is that when you find models, they will often be skewed to often sort of Caucasians or Asian models. So if you want to be specific on the kind of model, it's worth training a model on your own data to get it out, and that way you can look like yourself.
The other thing you can also do, and you can see that I use specific words here, like older, to be vague, but to let it have some space so that we get a rock band of people who are over 40, right? Like, not every rock band needs to be people who are under 40. And so finding specific trigger words that that get the kinds of elicited response. What I loved is that in about half of these images, these two women over here are holding hands as if they're lovers, and it just makes me so happy every time I see them. Like I did a number of these where I'm zooming in and out. And for those of you who haven't used Midjourney, Midjourney now has a number of zoom functions. So you can start with a sort of focused image on a stage like this, and then zoom out and out and out until you get to see the whole scene. And this is a way that you can um, not just do the world building of creating the whole scene, but then you can take those images and make that zoom in shot that you're looking for too. So I've been just starting to explore that. This is one of those things where you definitely want to take it out to another tool like an After Effects, or you need to work with the footage a little bit in Topaz to do that. And I realized I haven't shown y'all Topaz yet, so I'm going to bring that up shortly. But are there any other questions before I bring up Topaz real quick and show you what that is? I think we got most of the questions that came in on the chat for now. If you are watching this later on and you want to drop a comment or a question, please feel free to do that. And I will do my best to answer those as they come. We are next going to be looking at a tool very quickly, just in the last few minutes, called Topaz. Topaz is a set of tools specifically for upscaling, and with video you can do things like interpolation. You can do a number of sort of advanced methods to get something looking cleaner and able to be published. So let's see if I can get into Topaz.
So if people are looking to get into Topaz, that's topazlabs.com.
Topazlabs.
It is a paid site. It is a widely adopted tool. They generally have their list of customers on their homepage also. And it's great for upscaling. I use it all the time myself.
Yeah, I will say I'm primarily using it for upscaling. I do. All right, so let's present from Topaz if it lets me. Yeah, all right, there we go. Oh, very interesting. Well, that's weird. It doesn't want to share Topaz with you very well. I'm going to see if I can figure out a way around this. But what it might do is that I might need to just include a thing for y'all later. Yeah. Chrome lost permission to capture my screen when I tried to go to Topaz. That's fascinating. I've never seen it do that before. I will just go ahead and put up the Topaz website for you before we go. Topaz, there's a little bit of a learning curve on it, but it's not too hard. It's really, relatively straightforward. The problem is it's a little bit pricey. So I won't say it's right for everyone. It's right for those who are professionals or who are trying to get professional quality results. If you want to try a clip and see what you get in touch with me or someone else who has Topaz, and that way we can kind of roll you through it. But what you're going to see when you go to Topaz, it's specifically the video AI tool. As it says, you can get tech sharp 4K. You can get it up to 60 frames per second. You can do a lot of the either denoising or adding of a film grain. What it is it's basically a generator that's trained on other videos in order to improve the quality of your videos. So it is a generative tool of sorts, but it's more of a post-production generative tool versus a production tool specifically. So if those of you who are thinking about whether this might fit in for you, you can see on the tools on the right include getting your frames per second up to 30 if that's what you're trying to do, a stabilization, enhancement, interpolation, film grain, and then being able to convert it into other file formats. So those are the sort of basic things that you might want to try and use these kinds of tools for. And again, not everyone finds they're going to need it, but if you're trying to get to something that is
broadcastable, or at least at 4K quality from a generative tool, you're going to need something like Topaz to get there. None of these generative tools are putting out anything close to 4K right now in terms of actual quality. Have you seen anything better? I'm curious.
No,
Yeah.
no. I've used other ones for upscaling, but Topaz is the king right now.
And to be clear, these are the kinds of tools that cost millions prior to the pandemic. If you were a cinematic house, you were hiring Weta to do certain aspects of this, and you were spending millions of dollars. And so we have gotten some of these price points down. Not every aspect of a workflow can be brought into a low-cost generative tool, but some pieces, like using Topaz, can reduce both the amount of time, but especially the amount of cleanup work that you need to go through and do by hand, right? Because 20 years ago, you would have had to clean that up frame by frame. If you were making a movie like Waking Life, and you would have had to gone to every single frame to clean it up.
And they did.
So that's what they did, right? Rotoscoping. Yep. It's been great to see you on the cast today, and thanks for coming on. I was really excited. For those of you who are backstage, Lorraine giving y'all a shout out to Maui. We love you. We're sending you all of our best wishes as you set about to recover your beautiful island. And thank you for joining us from all over the world. It's great to see you here. I'm Evo at RealityCraft, and Stephen Van Loon, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. If you're looking for more content like this, it's at Evo RealityCraft on YouTube. There's the RealityCraft group on Facebook, and you can find me on LinkedIn as well. Have a great day, y'all. Bye.